On LA Currents, let's go for a walk to commemorate the history, architecture, and culture of Los Angeles neighborhoods. Next, Deanna Mangulu, Director of the Office of Finance, wants to know if you registered a business this year. We chat with Deanna about her years of experience, the services her office provides, and the tax amnesty program. Up first, we head off to Dodger Stadium to visit with a council member who shares how he continues to uphold the support for his district under the pressure of COVID-19.
Councilman Joe Buscaino, welcome to our show.
Thanks, Rasha. Look at us. Here we are.
What a dream, right?
Amazing. So much history.
You've had your own history here.
In 1992, the San Pedro High baseball team, which I was a part of, we played on this field and won the city championship.
This year, there's been so much that we've been through. So I want to talk about COVID first. It's something that's affected all of us across the Southland, and it continues to affect us. But your district already in April had rolled out some programs to help residents. Could you tell us about those programs and if they're still in effect?
Of course. I'm proud that in my district, our team had to come together and find a way to feed the most vulnerable, our seniors and disabled residents. We launched a food program that helped stimulate the economy by helping support our small businesses, our restaurants. We fed 1,000 people every week for 7 weeks in a row, 4 days a week. And it was important for us, again, to help our local restaurants and feed those who needed us the most. We also worked with the private sector and were able to bring in $500,000 and provide grocery cards, and we distributed them throughout the district. But I'm also proud that we were the first to house 100 homeless individuals at the Sunrise Hotel in downtown San Pedro. It was what we know it today now as the Project Room Key, that allows homeless individuals to find shelter in a bed with wraparound services.
Well, and I wanted to talk to you about the homeless issue here in Los Angeles. According to the Los Angeles Homeless Services Authority, the city experienced a 14% increase in the city, but your district experienced a decrease. What do you feel contributed to that? We
saw a reduction in Council District 15, and we're thankful. We're thankful for the residents in my district who said yes to solutions. And I believe I was the first to have not one but 3 bridge home sites, Wilmington, San Pedro, and Watts, to move. They are now up and running. That's 300 souls that came from the sidewalks and into a bridge home shelter.
It seems in your mission, too, you're very solution-oriented, so the Housing Solutions Action Plan. Talk to me about this plan. What are some of the components? How soon do you think this plan will be implemented?
Channel 35 is getting the exclusive
All right.
on our plan, so we've been meeting with our...
We're hearing it here first.
We've been meeting with our neighbor council representatives in all corners of my district. And the housing plan is just that. We got to recognize the fact that city leaders, we are elected to take action, leading with urgency, as I've often said. So this action plan is recognizing the fact that we have already hundreds of permanent supportive housing units in my district, and we're advancing more. We have about 2,000 that are already in the pipeline or have already been built that we're proud of.
You know, we've talked a little bit about proposals and plans, but there have been some wonderful things that have also happened in your communities, like the Jordan Downs redevelopment in Watts. I understand that they doubled the complex in size from 700 units to 1,400 units and created affordable housing. Tell me why this was important, because I also understand that this area hadn't been looked upon since 1950s. That's where they had created low-income housing. That's a long time to now go in and fix the area up.
Let me remind us that we are here at Dodger Stadium, and I'll never forget the importance of really tasting the fruits of victory. And that line that was used when my cousin Peter took me at the south steps of City Hall, the Dodger Championship in 1988. And I was there as 13 years old, watching Tommy raise the championship trophy and saying how sweet it is to taste the fruits of victory. Well, we are tasting the fruits of victory on key projects in my district, particularly Jordan Downs. Again, as you mentioned, it's been talked about for 50 years. You know, you could talk about having a vision.
Long time.
You can talk about having a vision moving on plans, but leading with urgency and demanding change because the Watts deserves it. If you look today at Jordan Downs, it's an incredible development. Now, what we've done there, we've invested in the communities of color in Watts. We're using state dollars through the Watts Rising Initiative, which includes a core group of community of residents and nonprofits and police department, as well as our HACLA, our housing authority, advocating for state dollars and federal dollars. And if you go today to Jordan Downs, you see a Nike flagship store. You know, we've always said residents in South LA should not have to drive to the west side to go to a Nike store. We also included a Starbucks, but it's a special Starbucks. There's a community room, you can meet. It's a community training center for future Starbucks employees. We have quality grocery stores, Smart and Final. But what I'm so proud of that shopping center is that 80% of the people working there are from the South LA community. And the housing, we've doubled the footprint without displacing one resident.
I'm going to jump to something else because we have a few minutes left here.
What?
Yes,
that was quick.
That went by fast, right? Well, there has been a long-awaited project that I've also been following in your district, and it's the Wilmington waterfront.
Yes.
I understand it had its groundbreaking a month ago, and this 9-acre project is finally happening. How is the Wilmington waterfront going to be a game changer for San Pedro and Wilmington?
Again, tasting the fruits of victory, right? Again, a project that has been talked about for decades, and we finally moved on it. I'm proud of the commitment from the Port of Los Angeles. I'm proud of the residents who advocated for this project. Now, keep in mind, aside from the Wilmington waterfront project, we have acres of beautiful green space that our community uses day in and day out adjacent to the waterfront. You know, Wilmington has suffered from the negative impacts of the industrial uses of the refineries and the port. So it was important for us to find a way to deindustrialize, create green space, bring in retail and dining opportunities. So this 9 acres, an investment of over $70 million from the Port of Los Angeles, is moving forward and will be built over the next 2 years.
Councilman, I would love to ask you, as we come to the end of 2020, what is one thing that you have learned this year, or something that you will be taking with you as we go into 2020?
Yeah, you know, as president of National League of Cities, we represent 19,000 cities, towns, and villages. I'm given my formal remarks at the conclusion of my presidency, and I told my colleagues, you know, just being resilient, you know, being able to move quickly, lead with urgency, you know, and sometimes it takes life and death matters to move quickly and be flexible. Very similar to what this LA City Council, along with Mayor Garcetti, have done over the course of the last 6 months, is ensure people remain in their homes, you know, provide equitable testing for COVID-19 in communities, particularly the communities of color and disadvantaged communities, coupled with the presidential election and getting people to vote. And it has been a challenging year, but at the same time, you know, we are elected to lead not only in good times, but also challenging times. And the question I have to ask myself and also my colleagues on the City Council is, you know, have you left that mark? When you reflect back on this year, what mark have you left in improving the quality of lives amidst this pandemic, which I don't think it's going away soon until we get a vaccine. But we're grateful that we have each other. Amazing how Angelenos came together in light of, you know, this pandemic, and then the civil unrest and the issues of inequities in systemic racism, how we're able as Angelenos to come together.
I have to say, though, before we end here, you are one of those few individuals through the most difficult times. You are always smiling. And I think that just brings so much hope. I don't think I've ever been to an event, even in the most challenging times, you just bring this smile, which brings people hope. So thank you for that.
I appreciate that. It's okay to smile. And, you know, as much I'm Italian, born and raised, and we're emotional. We love to hug and kiss, so I'm sending a virtual hug and a kiss to all of the city of Los Angeles.
Thank you so much. It's
Thanks
been a pleasure
Thanks for having me.
here.
Here to help LA celebrate 24 years of the Angels Walk, Councilmember Curren is joined by local historians to discuss the significance of sharing LA's story.
Los Angeles is a melting pot of different cultures, traditions, languages. Every building, every street corner has many stories worth telling. That is why 24 years ago, Deanna Mangulu founded the Angels Walk Project. And today we're going to talk about its newest walk along Central Avenue. For that, we have Tracy Lane, co-director of the team, and council member from District 9, Curren. Thank you so much for being here. So Tracy, tell our viewers, what is Angels Walk about?
Well, as you mentioned, it's 24 years ago, so next year we'll be celebrating our 25th anniversary. We've been around for quite some time, and the mission's very simple. The mission is to celebrate the history of LA and its neighborhoods with self-guided urban walking trails.
Wonderful. Council member, your district has been very involved in this project as well.
Absolutely. You know, it certainly is consistent with our philosophy of economic development, encouraging the arts, and working collaboratively with citizens and businesses. And this is the kind of project that really gives us a chance to highlight some of the history and legacy of Central Avenue.
So how do you think it's going to impact your district specifically, this
Well, I think
Central Avenue walk?
it's going to be very positive. In fact, there's already a renaissance going on along Central Avenue. We're making a number of public sector improvements, streets and sidewalks. We've initiated a new business improvement district on Central Avenue between Olympic and Vernon. And as I said, have really worked to try to encourage and support local businesses as we move forward. And so this is going to be consistent with that, shining a real spotlight, not just on South LA, but on Central Avenue specifically, highlighting the cultural, highlighting the history, and the activities for the future.
I was going to close with this question for both of you. What do you hope the younger generations will learn from this specific walk?
I can speak as having grown up here in LA. You tend to just know what's around you, and you have a sense that there's much more of a city out there, but you don't know much about it. And so I think Angels Walk really just provides kind of a grounding in the city, also can really build like a sense of pride in Los Angeles. And I think even though the walks are designed to appeal to, let's say, visitors or tourists, we really see them as being for the community. You know, to know what took place on these streets and how our neighborhood got to where it is today, its flavor, its culture, its people, its businesses, its kind of evolution, I think just gives you more of a connection to your neighborhood and to your neighbors.
Projects like this are so important to educate and inform because it does illuminate what happened in the past and helps people understand what's going on and what can happen in the future. It makes folks proud, it makes them very aware, and I think very sensitive to obstacles but also opportunities. And so Angels Walk provides us with a chance to do just that.
Council member, you were born and raised in District 9, which is the home of this new Central Avenue walk. What are the changes that you've seen, you know, since you were a kid until, you know, nowadays?
Well, certainly one of the exciting developments we've seen is the new housing along the Central Avenue corridor. Specifically there at Jefferson and Central Avenue, we've got the Angeles Funeral Home. Formerly the funeral home has been transformed into affordable housing. And adjacent to it is going to be the Florence Mills project. And again, it's going to be 60 units of affordable housing in our community. And that project is emblazoned with a multi-story mural of Florence Mills. In fact, she performed up and down Central Avenue, was known throughout the United States as an entertainer, as an activist. And so we're real proud that this facility will be a lasting memory of her and her achievements.
Thank you so much, Tracy and Councilmember Price, for being here and talking about this new Central Avenue Angels Walk. We'll be talking now with Dr. Jefferson. We'll be right back here at LA Currents. In the first half of the show, we talked to Tracy Lane and Councilmember Price about the Angels Walk project and specifically about the Central Avenue Walk. Now we are joined by Dr. Allison Rose Jefferson. Thank you so much for being here. She's a historian, published author of Living the California Dream, African American Leisure Sites During the Jim Crow Era. You seem like a great fit to write about the Central Avenue Angels Walk. So how did you become involved with this project?
Well, I actually mentioned it to Councilman Price that it might be something that he would want to consider to have this heritage trail on his in his district on the Central Avenue corridor, and he thought it was a good idea. And when they got ready to do the project, after he thought about it a while and helped and met Angels Walk, then they called me up and asked me would I be interested to participate in helping to do the research on the project.
So let's talk about the actual stops, some of these like iconic locations, like for instance the Dunbar Hotel.
So the Dunbar Hotel actually was originally called the Somerville Hotel, and it was built in 1928 by the power couple, John and Veda Somerville. And so they built the hotel in part to accommodate the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, the NAACP, convention that was going to be here in 28. And so because there was no really big black hotel in Los Angeles that could accommodate all these people coming out to Los Angeles for the convention, and the big white hotels weren't allowing African Americans to stay in those hotels. They in downtown, they could go and visit, but for events, big public events, but they couldn't just go. They couldn't stay in those hotels. So the Somervilles built it, and then it changed to the Dunbar a few years later because of some financial difficulties that the Somervilles had. And then that's the era that most people remember about the Dunbar. And that's when it became the anchor of the jazz in the area. Lots of different people performed there. Cab Calloway,
Ray
Charles, Duke Ellington, Billie Holiday. We could go on. And there were some white folks who were Hollywood luminaries who used to come and hang out in the Central Avenue corridor as well, and they would go to the Dunbar and other clubs in the area.
So overall, how do you think this particular walk will benefit people's understanding of the African American experience in Southern California and specifically in Los Angeles?
One thing about the Angels Walk that I just love is the fact that it has such a diversity of stories about the people and of some events and the architecture of the area. And I think that for the residents of the area, it's an inspiration to see all the different things that went on in this neighborhood, and that it can help them to have pride in their neighborhood. And then for other people who don't live in the neighborhood, it's an opportunity for them to learn about another section of their city by taking this Angels Walk on Central Avenue, as well as going on other Angels Walks. And for people coming from out of town who want to learn about Los Angeles history and they've heard about the Central Avenue corridor, this is a way for them to have an easy introduction to the history of the area by taking this 3-mile walk.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jefferson, for joining us and sharing all this wonderful knowledge and stories about the Central Avenue Angels Walk.
Handling the finances for a city as large as Los Angeles is no small task. I sat down with Deanna Mangulu to discuss what the Office of Finance is doing during the pandemic. LLCs, 1099s, sole proprietorships, corporations. If you own a business, here in Los Angeles, I should say, more than likely you will be dealing with the Office of Finance. It's a complicated world out there, but fortunately we're going to get some good answers. So I'm delighted to welcome to LA Currents, the Director of Finance, Deanna Mangulu. Lovely to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
Well, all right, so the Office of Finance for the City of Los Angeles encompasses a very large scope of responsibility. So in a nutshell, frankly, what does it do?
Well, our two core functions are, we are, number one, the city's tax collector. So we collect half of the city's general fund related taxes. So that includes our annual business tax that businesses file, the transit occupancy tax, which is a tax that's paid on a monthly basis by guests that stay within our hotels within the city boundaries, parking occupancy tax, and utility users tax. So we're responsible for collecting those taxes. We're also responsible for collecting permits, fees, and fines on behalf of other city departments as well. And second, we are the city treasurer. So we manage the city's cash, which is unlike managing the budget. The budget, which is more based on a plan and it's managed by our office of the CAO. Our responsibility is to manage the city's cash and to ensure that we have enough cash to pay for our outgoing daily responsibilities, monthly responsibilities, and project out annually, and also to ensure that we are managing cash that's flowing into the city, our depositories, and ensure that we are investing that cash prudently and that we have it liquid and available for when we need it.
Since this is one of those unorthodox periods in time that nobody could have predicted anything, some special things have gone into place, including a tax penalty amnesty program, and that is still going on. But what are the parameters of a tax amnesty program, and who can take advantage of it, and what are the benefits?
So essentially, it is a program that has been operating since October 1st and will be lasting through December 17, and it allows any business doing business within the city of Los Angeles that should, whether they're registered or not, to essentially come clean and pay for any back taxes that they owe, including principal and interest, and in exchange the city will waive all penalties associated with those delinquent accounts. We felt that it was important, especially during a time like this, during the time of a pandemic, when it's been really difficult for businesses that are struggling, to allow for an opportunity to reduce that burden on them.
Sometimes, in the grander scheme of things, if you owe federal taxes, you can negotiate a payment plan. Is that part of this tax amnesty? If you are willing to fess up and say, look, I'm in arrears and my penalties are so that I would like to get them off the books and start, paying my taxes, my principal, and my interest, do you, at the Office of Finance, offer a payment program of any kind?
We do. So as part of the tax penalty amnesty program, we offer an installment plan.
Okay.
And so our billing unit would be able to structure a payment plan that works for both the taxpayer and also ensures that those taxes are collected before the end of the fiscal year.
What if you're an independent contractor? Because that's been a very dubious and an interesting issue here in the state of California. I mean, especially when you start talking about some of the 1099 independent contractor status has been changed, or there's been fights to make them employees, and there's been fights against wanting to be an employee. So if you are an independent contractor and you live and work in the city of Los Angeles, do you also get a business tax registration, or is that just something between you and the federal government when it comes to you paying your federal and state taxes?
You're still required to file for your business registration tax certificate.
Really?
Yes.
And if you're a nonprofit, or quote unquote a 501c3?
If you're a nonprofit as well. So long as you're engaging in any business, so long as you generate a profit, you're subject to the renewal.
Interesting. There's an enormous amount of help for people out there if they need to get the permit, or if they need to understand what their business responsibilities are, or if they just, want to learn more. Because I imagine, especially in the pandemic, people who may have lost their jobs or are rethinking who they are might want to open a business or start an entrepreneurial effort of some kind. And there's a lot that the Office of Finance offers.
So we have resources that are available on our website that essentially finance.lacity.org that essentially provides instructions for how to start a business, how to file for your business tax registration certificate, how to renew that, what are some other regulatory ordinances that you need to be aware of depending upon the type of business that you're in. We also have a business portal for businesses that are just starting and has resources and information that allows you to get information on how to manage and grow your business.
Okay, so we are in LA, and LA, of course, is the entertainment capital of the world. And I was really, really interested in some of the exemptions that different organizations get. So what is the creative artist exemption?
The creative...
And can I have it? No, I'm kidding.
Well, perhaps, so the creative artist exemption is available to those individual creative artists that essentially make money from their creative activities. And if you are an artist that generates, has a gross income specifically related to your creative activities, that does not exceed $300,000, then you are exempt from paying business tax.
Okay, so if I'm an artist and I have a gallery, or I'm an artist and I sell my art, or I'm a musician and I perform, and I actually have business in that regard. Okay, well, I think the $300,000 probably encompasses most of the creative artists, because unless of course you're someone like a major producer. All right, and then on the flip side of that, there's also incentives for having entertainment production here in Los Angeles, and so I know that there's been some incentives there, and that there's an entertainment production cap.
Yes, and the entertainment production cap specifically refers to those businesses that are motion picture, television, radio producers, and essentially it caps the amount of tax that those businesses pay based on production cost. So unlike other businesses where we base the tax on gross receipts, here we base it on production cost. And so, for example, if one of those businesses were to produce something that were to cost anywhere from $12 million or above, regardless of how high that goes, their tax is capped at $9,245.
Oh, okay. So even if they gross and or net billions and billions of dollars internationally. Well, that's an incentive to do production here as well, I'm sure.
Make sure to renew your tax certificate on time before March 1st so that you don't compromise that exemption.
All of these questions and everything that anyone could possibly want to know about the Office of Finance is available at
our website, which is finance.lacity.org.
All right. Thank you for making all of this feel manageable.